You know, it's one thing to learn how to quilt a design, such as a wishbone. It's a completely different thing to know when and how to use it on your quilts. And in this video, I'm going to show you 5 different ways to use the wishbones on your quilts. I'm Angela Walters from Quilting is My Therapy, and in a previous tutorial, I showed you how easy it was to quilt the wishbone design. If you haven't watched that already, you can find the link to that in the description box below. What I want to do is show you some quilty eye candy and show you just how easy it is to use it in different areas of your quilt. The first and probably most obvious way to use wishbones on your quilt is in narrow borders or sashings. And in this quilt, which is from my Shape by Shape book, it shows all the square designs. I use the wishbone design in the sashings. This particular sashing is about 1.5 inches, which is a hard size to decide how to quilt. It's too big to really leave unquilted, and it's too small to fit a feather in there. So wishbones are a great option. And as you can see, when I get to a spot where it intersects, I just keep on quilting. So for all the vertical sashings, those get wishbones in one direction, and all the horizontal, it gets it in that direction. A second way to use wishbones on your quilt is in irregularly shaped blocks like wedges. If you're looking at a quilt block and you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's narrower at one end or it makes this weird shape, wishbones just might be the design to go for. This is called Spin Doctor. It's a quilt pattern from my second book, In the Studio with Angela Walters. And as you can see, it's like one large Dresden plate. It's a big kind of flower shape, and I have these wedges that are narrower at one side and wider at the other. So when it came to deciding what to quilt, I picked designs that could easily fit differently shaped blocks. That wishbone is great. Since it goes from edge to edge, I just quilt till I approach the edge and then loop back the other way. Now you might think, I'm not planning on making a Dresden quilt anytime soon. I don't see this being an issue. Well, think about any irregularly shaped blocks that you might have. In this quilt pattern, which I designed, this is the Sprockets quilt pattern. For some reason, I thought it would be clever to have this kind of differently shaped pink area right here. Now this block is kind of a square, it's kind of a rectangle, it's got a lot of stuff going on, but all I had to do was use those straight lines to echo, make that space a little bit smaller, and then quilt in those wishbones in the space between them. Now you can see these wishbones get pretty big. They're probably about 4 or 5 inches across. So as long as you feel comfortable quilting a line that long, you can fit it in just about any size area. So irregularly shaped blocks, such as Dresden plates, improvisationally pieced blocks, anything that isn't your regular square or rectangle, give it a shot and see if the wishbone wouldn't look great in there. The third way that you can use wishbones on your quilt is as a filler around other quilting designs. This is actually one of my favorite ways to use this design. And in this quilt, which is from my book, Shape by Shape 2, it's actually the quilt that shows all the border designs in that book, I showed just how much I love using that wishbone to fill in around this swirl design. My swirl is quilted horizontal, and then the wishbones are quilted in the opposite direction in a more vertical motion. This is kind of pointing to it, saying, hey, check it out. This is a really cool design. So be sure to put those wishbones around a design that you really want to show off. That's definitely the case for the Color Wheel quilt. Designed and pieced by Natalie Barnes for one of her books, I knew that this quilt could use a fun ribbon candy variation, but to really show it off, I quilted those wishbones around it on both sides. Again, it has that different direction, it's helped showing it off, and let's be honest, it was very quick to quilt, which is always a win-win. I actually went through a lot of my quilting pictures to pick out some of my favorites, and it turns out I kind of have a thing for quilting wishbones around other designs. I guess I'm stuck in a phase. If I had pulled all the examples that I've ever done about that, this would be a very, very long video. Another favorite way to use wishbones is with straight line echoing. And if I want to add just a little bit of an extra custom touch, I'm going to add some echo lines. That's definitely the case in the puzzle quilt. Now, if you're a fan of the Midnight Quilt Show, you've seen this quilt, or hopefully you have. I used echoing in wishbones to really highlight how that design goes around the block. I think it added depth to the quilt and really kind of showed off the pattern, which really is the most important function of quilting. This is another one of those techniques that I use a lot. And I found another example for this gravity quilt that I did for Julie Herman. Now she designed and pieced this quilt, and there was a lot of different shapes, but what I really wanted to make come out was that beautiful star in the center. So using some echoing helped kind of pull those together. Adding a little wishbone was a quick touch, but it just gives it an elegant look that's really fast and easy. Are you sensing a theme here? Okay, so that's 4 different ways to use wishbones on your quilts. Before I show you the 5th one, I just want to say thank you for watching my videos. I hope that you're having as much fun watching them as I have making them. Now, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you like what you see, leave a thumbs up or subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. Let's go to the number 5 way to use wishbones on your quilt. And that's to combine quilt blocks. Now, this is a little bit abstract. I need you to kind of use your imagination for this. If you have blocks that you can combine to make secondary designs, that is the funnest part of quilting, in my opinion. In this Giggles quilt, which is designed and pieced by Julie Herman of Jaybird Quilts, I saw that it could make a fun secondary design, almost like a zigzag or chevron across the area. So using echoing, of course, to pull those blocks together, putting those wishbones designs in there, oh, I just love the secondary pattern. I think it shows off the piecing, and it's kind of fun and amusing. And what can I say? I'm easily amused. Well, there's 5 different ways to use wishbones on your quilts. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time for another video tutorial.